and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Prize Fighters, Circus Freaks, and Gangsters. I'm Greta.
And I'm Jamie.
And this week we are here to talk about the surprisingly undepressing movie, Surrounded.
I can't imagine how you found this undepressing. But, I mean, I've got quotes that are just depressing. They're depressing quotes.
Okay, so we are here to discuss the 19th century, and we are using media that depicts it. And in this case, we are using the movie starring Letitia Wright called Surrounded. And I guess when I say surprisingly undepressing, I was expecting it to be way more gory and way more depressing. So I should say surprisingly less depressing?
Mel, my wife, will only stay in the room for about 5 minutes of this movie, and I think I've seen it 2 or 3 times now. And she cannot stand to be in the room for any part of it. Everybody in the movie is relentlessly cruel, with the exception of a couple of people. And she just can't. It's just that 19th century frontier mentality just like sickens both of us. So it's but her more than me. Like she can't even tolerate listening to it in recreation.
Fair enough. It's just, I guess, so much movie making, especially in the last couple of decades, has been about like cranking up the cruelty and like finding new and more disgusting ways to like get our amygdala all hopped up. And then this movie is just like, no, this is just realistic run-of-the-mill cruelty. I was kind of relieved.
Yeah. But by the same token, it's so horrifying to, So the setting is 1870. So that puts us, 2 years before?
5 years after the Civil War.
Yeah, but 2 years before Bass Reeves, right?
Right. And we're out in New Mexico. So yeah, the Civil War might be over. And a little while later, Texas and some other places finally gave in with the Juneteenth recognition that, hey, okay, we do have to free our slaves, but even so, we're out here in kind of the middle of nowhere, and there are plenty of people who are like, well, it isn't a state yet, so I don't have to follow your rules.
Yeah, that was wild. That was something that I didn't expect at the beginning of the movie when one of the guys asks for her papers. I'm just going, what? Like, they were emancipated 5 years ago, and she even says, like, I was emancipated like 5 years ago, and he's like, I don't give a shit about that. Show me your papers anyway. And obviously the man can't read. He's just
yeah, he's awful about it. So we start off literally in kind of this frontier settlement and
Brushwood Gulf, New Mexico.
And it was depicted perfectly as purgatory, not hell, because people are passing through, going in and out. People aren't necessarily stuck there. But it's purgatory, and it is not a good place. You want to move through there as fast as you possibly can.
Oh, you want to talk set design, though? Oh my goodness, they are making Warrior look like pikers in this thing. So she walks up to she walks past. We have food prep. Did you notice the campsite food prep?
Oh, I was totally gonna get there. That everybody is butchering wild meat as you walk through there, and it is definitely, you've got the white-tailed deer bucks, because you've got this whole arch just constructed of deer antlers, which would have happened.
I thought there was a horse head in a stew pot, but it was a deer head.
Yeah.
It's still, why are you stewing a deer's head with the hair on it? It made no sense.
Well, maybe they wanted to get the skull out for some reason, or that was kind of weird. Like you would have pulled it off, or they were just stewing it to get the face meat off so that they could like pound it.
Yeah, delicious stuff.
Hey, when your protein is that or nothing, or rattlesnake, I don't know.
yeah, but unsalted dried meat, just goddamn, that's just so miserable. Makes me sad.
Well, you might have actually had a pretty good amount of salt. There are a lot of salt flats in that part of the world.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good then.
Part of like the Mexico, Texas, New Mexico, like fighting right around in that area were some really, really good salt flats. And so unscrupulous people on both sides were like setting up camp, and like they weren't really charging for salt by the pound or whatever. They were just charging tolls for people to get in there.
Oh, okay. That explains why the beef jerky is so goddamn good, especially on the Oklahoma-Texas border. Oh, my God.
There you go.
You will never have better beef jerky. At every gas station, you could just get the best beef jerky you've ever had.
Well, that is definitely one of the things. You have to cut it thin enough. You have to cut it in the right direction. And it's better if it gets pounded a little bit. But yeah, plenty of salt.
Salt is essential. And let's talk about she's walking up to this tavern, and this is the most realistic looking building, because when I was in China, I saw hand-built buildings that had no level involved in them. And it's something you never see in the United States, because you're not used to seeing an uneven roof or a very tilted like doorway or something like that. But this whole thing was askew and going at different angles, this whole building.
Oh, I loved it. And they had the two chimneys at either end, which is super realistic. Like, you'd never put a chimney in the middle of a building. That's stupid. Because if you have a chimney fire, you want it on the end of the building so you can just knock the chimney off the building. In fact, a lot of chimneys were built so that you could go like pull out the prop and the chimney would fall away from the building so the chimney fire wouldn't take out your building.
Yes, so that if the chimney sweep hadn't been by recently enough, they could just...
Those New Mexico chimney sweeps, right.
Oh my goodness. I imagine that was later on we have a character named Tuco who seems to have some sort of physical deformity, but I feel like chimney sweep would have been his kind of gig if he hadn't have been a horrible outlaw.
Right, but I mean the unpeeled logs just, and they're all like wavy, and because you're out in New Mexico, there are trees, but the tall, straight, regular trees of like large forested area, those don't exist. You're getting all like craggly, bumpy, wind-blown, cottonwoods and pines.
Yeah,
and
drought-stricken. These are trees that are just living through drought after drought, and they're all bent and fucked up and gnarled. But yeah. Oh, it must have been a nightmare to cut through all that knotty-ass wood, too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
So what? They're going to, like, cut through those knots on the side trying to, like, peel off the... No, they're like, look, I got the tree down. That's good enough. Done. Finished.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know how much dysentery I have and how long I've had it?
Well, Mo definitely knows from dysentery because she does not want to drink anything but something that has been boiled, i.e. coffee, which was a pretty safe bet, but it tasted awful. But you didn't want a glass of water in a place like that.
Hey, it was way better in the north than it was in the south, though, because in the south we restricted their coffee, so they had to drink chicory.
True, but I mean, this is post-Civil War, and this is like way out on the frontier.
Way.
Yeah, way. But at that point,
they were going with that chock full of nuts. They still serve that horrible chicory shit in New Orleans and call it good, and I'm like, just because it's a terrible tradition does not mean it should be
just because it's always been done this way. But yeah, so coffee could have been a lot worse, but at that point people shipped the beans green still, and then roasted them for use, which now makes you a terrible, insufferable, like, poser hipster person. But back then, it's just how it was done. It didn't make any sense to ship anything but the dried green beans and then roast them for use. Because the time between when the beans, like, arrived at port and then actually got to you, and, I mean, who knows? In New Mexico, those might have come overland, for God's sakes.
Oh, yeah. So they'd be old.
Yeah.
They don't gain any strength by aging or anything like that, do they?
No. If you just dry them green, they actually have a pretty good shelf life. It's like once you roast them, a lot of the compounds that are in there become volatile. The only thing, so green coffee beans have the most caffeine, and then the darker you roast them, the less caffeine that they have because it's a heat-destroyed compound.
Excellent. Well, I knew about the dark roast, and because it was a big thing a few years ago about people thinking that dark roast had more caffeine, but it is a terrible, terrible lie. But then tea has more coffee than any, or tea has more caffeine than any kind of coffee, right?
That's right, on a per weight basis and a per ounce basis. You betcha.
Go green tea.
Yes, and I did appreciate also that in that bar, it just wasn't all white people, which again would have been realistic, but typically is not the way that happens in most cowboy movies. So thumbs up for that too.
Yeah. Although the violinist does cut out the second she walks into the bar, just like the record player would stop, or the pianist would have stopped in any other movie. It was awesome.
True. What you gonna do?
I love the way that when she orders her coffee, so she walks up to the bar and the guy goes to pour her a whiskey and she asks for a coffee instead, which I didn't realize she was doing so that she didn't get dysentery or anything else. Also, she needs to keep her wits about her, because as a black person in a white place, this is a bad jaunt. But so she like surrounds her coffee kind of with her body. And then they put the name of the movie, Surrounded, up on the screen, because she's kind of looking over her shoulder either way, and then it bang, hits her with Surrounded. And it's like, oh, that was such a cool way to do that. It was a little microcosm.
Right. I mean, the whole thing with her sort of walking into Purgatory and being like, okay, I gotta get on to the next step. And yeah, like clearly she doesn't want to be here and nobody wants her there. Or the way that they see it, like, strange young black man in town. This can't be good. We want him out of here. Either way.
Yes, because as the movie's set up, she's presenting as a man, because that's the only way she can move through society, as we come to find.
Right. And, I mean, it totally makes sense. I mean, even now in sort of societies where women are sort of more or less unallowed to move around as individuals, like they can either move around in groups or they can move around accompanied, and like married women, especially elderly married women, often have a little more freedom. Girls sort of through about age 12 or 14 will run around as boys so they can accomplish stuff for their family.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They get a little taste of freedom before it's snatched away and they're stuffed full of babies.
Right. And some of them, protest and sort of go on and become sort of this other class of people. But like even today in places where women are not allowed to move around, some girls, either their family will choose it for them or they'll choose it for themselves. They sort of become this free agent for a while.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's a known and done thing. So anyways, she gets her spot on the coach. And of course, the first person Mo runs into is that guy who we've all met, who has like just 4 things that he has power over. And he is going to lord that power over you for every inch it's worth.
Yes, dumbass Curly. He is just being as racist and horrible to Mo as he can possibly be. And this little cast of characters is fun. So we've got...
Oh, yeah!
We've got Curly, who's this racist asshole. There's the stagecoach driver, who I don't think I ever wrote down his name. Did you?
The stagecoach driver.
Yeah. But Brett Gelman, who I loved from the other guys, he's just a nutcase. He's the guy with the beard who plays Mr. Fields. He's amazing with his goofy British accent and everything. And then Jeffrey Donovan from Burn Notice is in there as like this Dudley Do-Right kind of, I don't know what he is. Sheriff.
Well, he's Mr. Wheeler. He's like the rich guy in them these parts. And so as soon as he shows up, Curly is like this sniveling little dog. Oh, yes, Mr. Wheeler. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Whatever you want, sir. He's that guy. Like if he has power over you, he's just going to like keep poking you with it. But as soon as the big man shows up, he's just like little puppy dog. Like, oh, how can I help you? We've all met this guy. We know this guy.
Oh, yes. Yes, we all avoid this person. Yeah. Which, of course, makes that person even more horrible over time, but whatever.
Right.
This happens.
But again, the character was well written, and the actor who played him so well. Just perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we see that Mo had... So every time that these guys start kind of in on her, she kind of walks off and looks at this... deed to land that she has in her Bible that is a parcel of land she's purchased in Colorado. So that's kind of like her lifeline that she just clings to, and she's just like kind of her serenity now. When when life gets too tough, she just looks at her deed to land and she's like, I'm free. I'm going to go be on my own place. So
yeah, I mean, and again, this is this story that's been told a zillion times. In this case, the land deed is kind of the MacGuffin. Like, this is the thing everybody's she's going to exert herself about. And then it's like, what is going to happen to keep her from getting that? Like, from the beginning, I could see, okay, this is the kind of movie it is. And so let's check out what cast of terrible people she is stuck with. Oh, and you forgot to mention sort of the older woman who is also traveling along, who plays that stereotypical role perfectly as well. She's like very prim and proper. She knows the rules, and she is definitely the kind of woman who goes and talks mean about other women.
Oh, this is like, for anybody who's seen Gremlins, this is the bitchy old lady who gets killed by her motorized chair that goes up the stairs. Like, it's exactly that woman. She's just horrible, looking down her nose at everybody, sniffing at everybody, and she won't let a black person touch her because, God forbid.
Well, I mean, and she also is the kind of person who says with a straight face, that is a fate worse than death. Like, for her and this class of women, the only tool she has in the world is refusing to do shit. And boy, does she do that. Yeah. And so they set off to embark, and Mo has to sit with the luggage on the outside of the carriage, even though she paid full Back
price.
Of the bus.
Even though she paid full price for a ticket, she's got to sit outside of the damn thing. And
I mean, that's a crap seat, but on the other hand, it may not actually be that much worse than sitting in the carriage, because she'd have to sit there and listen to Mr. Fields yammer away and get hammered.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody in there has been eating trail beans and stuff, so I'm sure it smelled horrible in there. Nobody's been bathing, and then she'd have to deal with that bitch staring at her through the whole time. So
exactly,
or probably
scooching better away from her. Yeah,
yeah, probably better in the back. Shit. But then she gets a bird's eye view for when the bad guys show up.
Oh yeah, the bad guys are coming up, and just like, and the way everybody is, except for I did have to point out, before the bad guys show up, this is one of the few movies, or the few westerns, few movies as well, where it actually acknowledges that women pee too. That was funny to me.
Oh, yes, the old lady has to pee. And they're
like, "Are you relieved, madam?" And I was like, ah!
Yeah, and she just looks at Fields and is like, "Don't you ever shut your mouth," or whatever she says.
Yeah, no, he is that guy on an airplane or a train who's like, you're stuck sitting next to them, and you're like, okay, I've got my headphones on, I'm not, and they just keep yang.
Yeah, he's fucking hammered and just won't shut up. Yeah.
Oh, that was great. Because, he was the whiskey agent. He was the one who had, like, sold the whiskey to that bar out there. And so you have to wonder, does he really have a British accent?
No, he certainly does not. Yeah. He's just playing an erudite businessman.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, no, he's definitely, I mean, like, he had Medicine Show written all over him, basically.
Oh, if Billy Crow ever, like, if he's given a little bit of time to develop a character, he will have a British accent and a whole British backstory in a future episode. You know what I mean? Like, he would see Brett Gelman's character and be like, "Yep, that's what I'm doing from here on in. I'm British."
Yep. Like, somehow I'm a half-breed British French aristocrat. He could pull that off.
There you go.
Yeah. Or Spanish aristocrat as well, you know.
Yes, or Portuguese. He could go with anything.
I don't know. People they didn't
like the Portuguese.
Right, yeah. They were willing to fall for, like, the ruined Spanish Don or the disgraced French aristocrat, but nobody had, like, the Portuguese have aristocrats? I don't believe you. Go herd your sheep. Go catch some codfish. Go away.
Yeah, there was never the word Portuguese without some kind of negative descriptive term before it. Swarthy or greasy. Or
right, yeah. I mean, we were talking about, like, that's where the word Dago originally came from.
Oh, that's right. I had completely forgotten that, but yes,
yeah.
that is.
So, yeah, they never had nice things to say about the Portuguese. Okay, so anyway, the bandits ride up on them, and everybody's like, "God damn it. Couldn't we just... this is why we can't have nice things. Okay, look, we're just a bunch of people going from point A to point B. We don't have gold. We don't have mail. We don't have any... Just, okay, can we just, like, give you our coins and just go away?" But no.
But no. No, because this is a famous bank robber, Tommy Walsh, and he wants everything.
Yeah. And so, of course, they're standing there and hand it over, and Mr. Fields starts to get cute. And I'm like, oh my God, he's going to do something really fucking dumb, isn't he?
And he pulls some medicine show shit, just like you said, and starts feigning a heart attack.
Oh, you'll have to excuse me, sirs. I seem to be having a bit of trouble with my ticker. It's just...
Yeah. Woe is me. I think I shall expire presently.
I mean, there's like 6 guys there who are surrounding it.
Yeah, but he just...
and he pulls out a Derringer. You dumbass. You're going to get people killed.
Today's a good day to die, I guess. He's drunk. He doesn't give a shit.
That's true. But yeah,
he was taking a bottle to the face in the carriage. He's ready to play Superman.
Oh my God.
He ate that bullet to the chest and just started chuckling like, yep, I knew that was going to happen, but I thought maybe I was going to be quick enough to dodge that one, but nope.
No. Oh well, better to leave an interesting corpse. Farewell, my friend.
Exactly. And then we get to have our runaway carriage.
Yes.
We haven't had a good runaway carriage scene in a film for like 30 years because they were done to death for a minute.
And this one was like kind of fun and good because it wasn't too over the top. Nobody was doing like ridiculous karate moves. Like it had aged enough so we could do one that was sort of semi-realistic. And then the only kind of could that really happen thing is when they managed to shoot out the crossbar connecting the team. But you're like, okay, sure, fair enough. That could have happened.
Yeah, but they didn't do it on purpose. They did it on accident. Right. And so, so then now the cart's going towards a cliff and the horses have gone off their own way. And
they know where the trail goes. It doesn't go off the cliff, you idiot.
Exactly. And so Mo is trying to save this bitchy old racist woman who won't take her hand because she's black and doesn't go and grab her damn Bible off the back of the carriage that has her deed in it. And so the woman won't take her hand. She has to jump off without her Bible, and off the cliff her Bible goes.
See, I wasn't sure whether or not it was that Mo was black or it was just sort of this particular type of woman whose only choice in life is to refuse to do things. It could have been both, but the no, you can't make me leave the seat. I won't do it. I'm too afraid to jump. I mean, there is this type of woman all throughout pre-women being treated as entire people. They have no power except the power of no in a lot of cases. And so anytime a woman actively did something, she was always criticized, often by women exactly like this. It's like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Oh, that was a very racy thing to do. Oh, that brings your whole family into disrepute. I mean, again, she's the sort of straight-faced person who'd say, it's a fate worse than death. I'd rather die than something. She jumps out of the carriage and her dress flips up over her head, and that's the end of her reputation. Like, it could have been as much as that. So, on one hand, yes, I don't want to take the hand of a black person, but on the other hand, I'm too scared to jump. So
this lady has to have heard of Napoleon. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Audacity, 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 and
no, that's for men.
Oh, yes.
Women don't do such things.
Of course not. What was I thinking? Here I am. There's a reason why Letitia Wright is dressed like a man in this movie.
yes, there is. And at some point, it's like, well, this situation, this woman is not worth dying for. So, no. And of course, by that point, it's too late to grab her bag. So she jumps off, over the cliff it goes. And at first, it kind of tricks you because it goes down a hill. You're like, oh, it's going to be okay. No.
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 No, it's not. Yes, and so then she kills a couple of robbers very deftly with headshots. And the driver, who's not a racist and is now shot, compliments her on her great shot, which I thought was fun. Because she's all of a sudden turned into John Wick. But now she is stuck in the middle of nowhere with this prisoner, this bank robber, Tommy Wolf.
And by this very conspicuous tree, and then there's a cross set up there, and I saw later it was a grave, but I was like, that is a very realistic thing to sort of run across in a, sort of stagecoach setting. Like, okay, that looks like a place that wagons or stagecoaches would have stopped. Somebody would have set up a cross as like a little mini church. And I was like, or maybe there's a grave there. But running across crosses like that, just sort of out in the wilderness, totally believable.
Oh yeah, you needed a waypoint. Like they had no GPS. This is an old school waypoint on GPS, so you knew where you were going. And this was like, oh well, you see that big cross, make a right-hand turn. That's how you got to places.
Right.
There were no street names. There was no you didn't know where the hell you were going. You just kind of followed where everybody else had gone before you.
Yeah, all of that. And so we sort of have this moment where everybody who's going to get shot has been shot. So most people are wounded or dead. You've got a few, or fallen off cliffs, that too. And you got a few people.
Just like the lady in Gremlins who went out the window. That was very much a Gremlins lady, I feel like.
Well, yeah, because she absolutely refused to interact with humanity, or just like everything was centered on her. So, and she's like, well, if I jump out of this carriage, surely it will ruin my reputation. And so she, but
what do you want ruined? Your reputation or your face? She chose face.
Well, there are definitely people of that age who would rather die. Like when they'd say, "I'd rather die," then they meant it, and she clearly did.
Well, yeah, and you had all these, especially in the South, these Southerners challenging each other to duels where they were gouging out each other's eyes and fish hooking each other and biting off each other's fingers and shit. And it's like over nothing, too. So, yeah, I guess I'd rather die over this dumb shit. Some dysentery is going to kill me in 2 weeks, one way or the other, I guess. I got a belly full of parasites. Kill me.
This is toothache. Let's go.
Connect me to God's Wi-Fi. I'm ready. Beam me up. Let's do this.
So we end up with our cast of characters. We've got Mr. Wheeler, who's I'm gonna ride for the sheriff, and then they send the one big guy from the stagecoach with the Mr. Fields, who's wounded, to go find a doctor. And I'm like, really? Yeah.
Yeah, Curly's going to be great at finding him adequate medical care. He's just going to kick open a door and be like, can you read books? Well, this man's been shot. Book him. Do book stuff.
I was like, that's not going to be a good out. Mr. Fields is not going to have a good time.
Yeah. I feel like racist, stupid, violent. I could find a job for almost anyone in the world. But I mean, even really, really low achieving people with mental handicaps will be like great fire watchers. But what job could Curly do worth a shit?
Be a lackey. Like, he's got everything it takes to be just a lackey for some powerful dude.
I guess. At some point, he will fill a ditch. Yeah. That will be his ultimate triumph. Yeah,
so everybody sort of scatters and goes off to run their errands, and then we end up in sort of the locked room portion of the movie. So we've got Mo and we've got Tommy kind of just staring at each other.
I love that you called it a locked room situation when they're literally in the middle of, it's like Utah or something. So it's like this massive expanse. They might as well be on the fucking moon. And you're like, locked room situation. But it really is, because he's chained to this tree and she has to watch him. So it's the same as they might as well be inside a prison.
Yeah. He just starts running his mouth and I'm like, fuck me. I have been hit on by this guy. I've gone on a couple of dates with this guy. I've had to work with this guy, and Jesus, save yourself.
Well, he knows everything to say, and he's kind of cute too, so there's just...
Right, and so he can talk real sweet, but he gets annoyed real quick and then gets mean real fast. And then when you get mad because I didn't mean anything by it. Why does the world hate me? What have I ever done to the world? Like everything.
All I said was I find it interesting.
I'm just asking questions here.
There you go. They love that one too.
And I was like, you can't kill him, but you could shoot his mouth off for him because, but. Oof. I mean, the movie's got to happen, so she's got to leave his speaking fat. Like, give him a nice throat punch or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he dies, that's how many fewer people telling us to do our own research in 100 years.
Right.
So...
Well, I don't think that's hereditary. That's just more of people not...
Oh, no, he just raised future conniving jackasses.
That's true. But he definitely falls into that category of adequate but not super skilled cult leaders. Because, I mean, to run a gang, that's like some cult leader shit right there.
That's a very good point. Yeah, he's not quite to Jim Jones levels.
No.
These guys are like almost turning on him through the whole thing. But
right.
Yeah.
But he can always kind of sweet talk them back. But you learn later that something tragic did happen to him. And but... You don't...
A lot of tragic things happened to him. It wasn't just one tragic thing.
True, but he's... Anyway, we'll get there.
We shall. But in the meantime, he's spazzing because he knows that she's a woman. Nobody else noticed she's a woman, but he noticed, and he is real pissed he got his ass kicked by a woman.
Oh, yeah. And so then he just does you're a freak for dressing in men's clothing, and And she's just like, all I want to be in this world is invisible at this point. Like, people see me and their eyes just keep going. Like, that's the dream right there. And this is the best way. So you're the one who's obsessed about it. So who's the freak now? Well, and then she beats the crap out of him again.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that I was just like, I'm like, this guy again. And then he's like, well, I was a soldier and I did some good stuff. And she's so unimpressed. And he's like, I fought for your kind. And I was just waiting for her to say, my kind? What do you mean by that? But she doesn't. But she does.
I mean, that was the equivalent of a guy saying to a woman, like, you're just acting like that because you're on your period. Like, he might as well have just thrown the period thing in there just for good measure, Just a little icing on a cake.
Well, when he started it, like, I fought for your kind, he was waiting to be congratulated or thanked.
Yes.
And she was just like, oh, great. Super duper for you. Some of my best friends are black. I fought next to black soldiers. And she's just not impressed. And he gets so mad because she doesn't say thank you or something.
Yeah, and then she goes, we can't complain. We got to be grateful for the blisters on our hands and our empty bellies. And just like now, like, you're demanding me to be grateful for this shit. It's ridiculous. Like, this, and that was a theme throughout, and they brought it up. There was a callback to that line later in the film, but it really, because at the beginning of the movie, she says she's talking about how every slave got their freedom during the Civil War, and she said, but we were free, but we had no place to be free. They couldn't stay where they were because this is with a racist psychopath who owns the land or whatever.
Nope.
And so they had no place to go because nobody wanted them anywhere. There was no help. There was nobody there to say, oh my God, you've been horribly mistreated your whole life. Like, here's there's no FEMA so to take these people in.
There's no slavery FEMA. Oh my God. Or even like getting out of jail, here's a bus ticket and $20. Like, they were at some point kind of promised 40 acres and a mule. They didn't even get a bus ticket and $20.
No, they got nothing. And not only did they get nothing, but like, they weren't allowed to go to school. They weren't allowed to go into buildings. They weren't allowed to buy things. They didn't have any money to buy anything. So it's like, you're free person who has nothing. And if you're ever...
And people are like, why should I pay you to do work that I used to get done for free? Like, I'm not paying you for that. So yeah, it was just ugliness all the way down.
Yeah. And so she said when she set out for this that she's praying it to God to to deliver me from this evil. The evil of this alleged freedom that is nothing but more like false hope and chains put on them.
Yeah. 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 No, the places in this movie where they punctuate it by having chains reappear. So, like, when she's trying to get on the coach and the guy is like, throw me down them shackles. And it's like, clang, the chains appear. And then, you know, when they chain up Tommy Walsh to the tree, like, the shackles keep appearing. It's sort of like they're always there. I mean, we talked about, when we were sort of talking about this movie, the people that were surrounding her, but those shackles reappearing are also another force.
Even as she's getting onto the stagecoach and that woman side-eyeing her, there's a man being led past her, a black man being led past her in shackles, who looks like he's a slave. So, yeah, it's, as you said, I mean, it's very... The idea that black people are free at this point is very sketchy, and... as we just explained, it was not a good... Their freedom was very illusory in most cases.
Yes. Yeah. And it was sort of like, here's a very useful knife, and they hand you the point, so you've got to grab the blade. Like, that's kind of what's going on.
Yeah, as you're falling off a cliff, and that's the only thing you can grab onto.
But you know what? You can only stay in a locked room for so long staring at each other is what Mo and Tommy discover. And at last, Mo is like, you know what? I need to go dig up that coach and get my Bible back.
Yeah, because if you keep talking to me while I stand here with you tied to this tree, I'm going to beat you to death.
Yeah, and nobody wants that.
Yeah.
I even don't want that. So you know what? Let's get out of this room and go on a little field trip. So that goes well.
Yep, they go looking for her Bible. And so on this walk, we find out that he has picked up, either he grew up around a lot of black people, or he has picked up in his time black hymns. So I don't know how much of a sociopath he is. What do you think as a woman? Do you think...
Oh, that song, Down by the River? No, that was a song that... the reformist movement picked up. Like, the Christian evangelists, they loved that song at this point.
But it was still spiritual that was like...
Sure, yeah. But in the 19th century, like, the revival movements picked up a lot of these black spirituals and appropriated them.
Oh, okay. So he was still trying to connect with her through that song.
Yeah.
He was trying, so he was just being a sociopath.
Yeah, he was just being a sociopath.
Okay, because he can also speak Comanche, we've discovered.
Yeah, no, he is, like I said, he's definitely sort of one of those guys who tries to talk his way out of everything, but he's so fragile and angry, and he's definitely some of my best friends are black kind of dude as well.
By the same token, he explains that, like, his family members started getting shot in front of him when he was, like, 3 or something like that, so, and...
Yeah. Yeah, he does explain that the reason he's mad at the world, I've been mad at the world since I was 8, because basically cattle barons came in and stole his land, which was a real thing that was going on in that part of the country. We kind of saw it in Warrior with that guy who was in the Mexican border who just like went in and like stole the hacienda.
Yep.
So this kind of thing was happening, and it's sort of like...
I'm sure that's what happened with Esau Pierce. Yeah, he just took that ranch. It wasn't like he didn't build shit. He just, he stole someone's hacienda. Yeah.
Oh, totally. I mean, that one looked slightly less terrible because he talked about like, oh, they didn't want it anyway. And then I figured out how to monetize this land that they'd given up on. But again, you're like, was it really as friendly as you say it was?
Yeah.
But also they talked about like Callista in Bass Reeves, and she's like, yeah, and they like messed up my dad's land. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that they're talking about.
Yeah, it's kind of, I feel like it was kind of like when the mob is like, hey, you didn't pay us protection, and then they smash up all their shit, and they're like, hey, you probably don't want to be a business here because it's a bad neighborhood. So I imagine that's probably what Esau Pierce was doing to get his land.
Oh, a lot of that. And so they were talking about these cattle barons coming to people. It's like, you can either work for me or be dead. And Yeah, that, and so yeah, he was mad about that. And this problem we have with vigilantism. It sort of seems like, oh yeah, if he could have like grown up and gone back in there and shot these cattle barons and gotten the family land back, that would have been nice. But it just sort of sets up this cycle of evilness, and what usually really ends up happening is that law enforcement and the cattle barons get together, and so all the little people, their lives just suck. And
they had to do vigilante shit because there was no police to do anything. The police were just as bad as the fucking criminals. So but now I'm not saying they're perfect, but now we at least have a system where there is no point to vigilante justice. You don't need there's nothing that the average person can do that a policeman couldn't do 10 times better.
And it makes things, just way worse, and the amount of collateral damage is just nah. And so it's like, oh, frontier justice. I'm like, we're not on the frontier. We're in a neighborhood. So you gotta climb down. Like, even these sort of like out there, people think they're on the frontier. You're like, you're 2 miles off the freeway. It's still not the frontier, dude.
There is no more frontier. That time is past.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So.
Well, except for New Hampshire. New Hampshire has developed itself into a giant homeless encampment. So that, I guess, is the frontier now. It's a giant armed homeless encampment that is terrorizing the few legal homeowners that are left in that state. It's pretty...
with bears.
Yeah, they just... Yeah, plus there's bears, yeah. But none of the people with guns are shooting the bears. They're just sitting in people's yards pointing the guns at them while they watch TV.
I just, the whole thing, like,
it's crazy.
You guys, it's New Hampshire. It's landlocked.
Yeah, 20 years ago, everybody was just sitting around fucking listening to Fish and drinking maple syrup. I don't know what happened, but maybe type 2 diabetes makes you crazy. I don't know.
No, libertarianism. That's what happened, and that's what makes you crazy.
And our history program, which didn't teach people, we tried libertarianism in the 19th century, and it definitely did not work.
Doesn't work.
That's why we have laws. We tried it, and it didn't work. That's why Bass Reeves was so famous. He wouldn't have had to arrest 4,000 people if there weren't 4,000 people to fucking arrest.
Libertarianism creates what? Gun nuts and religious fanatics. And now we have religious fanatics with guns. It's great. It's great.
Oh, boy.
So... Anyway, we get to the bottom of the snowy canyon, and that was kind of fun, seeing that the canyon had snow. Because when you're up in that high country up there, do you know what time of year it snows?
Winter?
All of it.
Oh, okay.
Any time of the year, you could wake up and you're like, yeah, it snowed. Okay. And a lot of times the snow will be gone by the end of the day. But it can be any time of the year just about, and you can wake up to snow when you're up in that high mountain country.
Yeah, and people, a bunch of tourists have gone off wandering into deserts and died recently, and the heat really sucks in the desert.
Oh yeah.
But when you're freezing your ass off without a sweatshirt at night in the desert, that really sucks, because then you're sunburned, you got heat exhaustion, you're probably dehydrated, and it's freezing, and you have nothing to wear.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
those old school cowboy linen shirts were good for a lot, but they did not keep you warm when the temperature went from like 88 degrees to, 30. Just
yeah.
Which it would do. It would definitely do that. And because you've got all those like wonky pockets of air and a million microclimates, snow just, boop, it'll just happen to you.
Yeah, we got snow a couple of times in Tucson in April.
Yeah.
It was, not tons, but some. And it got...
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird as hell to see palm trees all over the place, but you're going to class and you got to wake up at, 7:30 or whatever. So you're wearing 10 layers, and then you get to class, you're taking off layers in between each class. So by noon, now you're outside in flip-flops and a t-shirt and shorts. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's weird as hell.
It's cool, but yeah, so who knows what time of year it was? It's the time of year it snows, which could be all of them.
Yes, the days that end in Y.
Exactly. So we get to the bottom of the canyon, we find the Stagecoach, but the Stagecoach is not alone.
No, it has been found by Comanches.
Yes, which were, outlaw Comanches, Comanche Raiders were definitely a thing in the 1870s, because again, these were people who had just been literally uprooted from their land, and they're like, it's ours now. And they're like, what do you mean it's ours now? It's ours now, go somewhere else. And they're like, what do you mean? Where? No, other people live on the somewhere else. This is our. And so these people were literally uprooted and made to become outlaws.
And then they found the most vicious psychopaths in all of Texas and said, we will pay you for every Comanche scalp you bring us. And they set them loose into the wilderness. And so not only were these people displaced, but now they are literally being hunted at all times by a whole squad of serial killers who are just unwashed maniacs covered in scalps walking around in the fucking wilderness on a horseback.
And occasionally the U.S. Army, as we discover soon enough.
Yes. So it was, if you were not a rich white man, this was not a good time to be alive.
Yeah. So they get down there and there is the total standoff. I did appreciate the way that they dress these people. The hats, the clothes, the colors, the shells. All of it. You're like, yes, this is the kind of stuff people sort of running around trying to acquire wealth and status and keep their skins together. Like, okay, this mishmash of stuff makes sense.
Oh, we got a couple of really good close-ups of weaves and fabrics and things too. Like the end of Bass Reeves, that last episode where we kept getting that like real close-up on the weave of his clothing. We got that a couple of times with Letitia Wright, where you could see that it was like rough spun, but it looked comfortable too. Yeah.
And so and the weapon, the combination of weapons these three dudes had, there was a Bowie knife, there was a bow and arrow, and there was a firearm. And you're like, that works. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, they managed to get out of it. And Letitia Wright, Mo, discovers the deed, but it has gotten ruined by water and smoke. And so it's not there anymore. Like, the paper is there, but the words are gone.
Yeah. She slumps to the ground realizing she fought a war to buy land that she lost trying to save some racist old cunt.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the air is literally like she deflates. And it's like, well, I don't know. I don't know what to do, man. I don't know. So then they end up back at the tree at the fire, and he's like, all right, so now that this paper's gone, will you tell me what it is? And that's when she confesses to him, and that's when we learn that she was a soldier, and that's where she got the money to buy the land, or at least the land claim.
Oh, it's way more cooler than she was just a soldier, though, because she was like a camp woman or something for 4 years and studied the soldiers. She studied how they moved, how they talked, what they did, everything. So that one day when they just had a slow day, she just wandered on into the camp and picked up a rifle and became Mo rather than Eunice.
Right. And bought the clothes.
Yep.
And that's all it took. Cutting her hair and a change of clothes, and now she's suddenly unrecognizable, but she knew that's what would happen.
Yes, because as what's his name? Jesus.
Tommy?
Yes, as Tommy keeps saying, nobody looks at her. Nobody looks at black people. So they don't even notice that she's obviously a woman, because they're like, it's just some N-bomb. So they just are like, they're just so racist that they don't even see she's an amorphous mass, I guess, to these people.
Well, and it is interesting, all the way up to this point, before she kind of gets outed by Tommy, she does this thing with her jaw where she's kind of like jutting it out, and she just keeps like a really tense jaw whenever she's looking at someone.
And keeps her head down.
And totally keeps her head down. But later on, you can see like her jaw muscles relax, like, and her face softens.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when she's talking about, like, she puts on this different air, and there's a different way you walk. And also the way you have to walk in the long skirts that you wore then was a very different gait from the way that you would walk in pants. And I mean, it's less, it's less obvious now because men and women both wear pants. But if you look in movies where you like period pieces, the way women have to move around in their dresses, but even now you can just sort of like, if you just sort of like half close your eyes so people are really blurry, you can like watch how different people walk. And it's a fun study. And so Letitia Wright does that pretty well. I was impressed. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to, every guy has had a woman try to teach him how to runway walk at some point. And it's so hard it's an entirely different method of locomotion. It's very fluid and it feels very strange, but it's totally alien to it. So it's funny to think of it, but it really would be very hard to do.
For me, an interesting way to think about it is how your shoulders and hips move with each other. And sort of there are these diagonal lines from like your left shoulder to your right hip and vice versa. And whether how much those bend and flex and then up and down your side as well. And if you have subtracted movement from those body parts for most of your life, those muscles become very stiff, and then it's very hard to activate a lot of those muscles.
Yes, it is.
And so you will also find some women who have been badgered a lot their whole life about looking too sexy. It's again, less of a thing now, but if you sort of look at the 70s and 80s and 90s, there are a lot of women who would walk very stiffly because they did it. They're like, I want to become invisible.
Yeah. I can't believe people still say you'd be a lot prettier if you smiled more. But somebody actually said it to my wife a couple of a month ago or something, and it's just crazy. It's crazy. So I can understand why women act the way they do. Just the crazy shit that you think nobody would ever do that happens all day long to every woman on the planet. And it was way worse back then. So my God.
Yeah. So when he's giving her shit about what kind of freak would dress in men's clothes, I'm like, somebody who just wants people to not look at me. How about that? It's not about trying to be a dude.
And she said she never felt so free.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing about the uniform. Already as a young black man, she's less visible than as a woman or a black woman. But as a soldier in uniform, you become even more anonymous and invisible. And
the U.S. Army is the first integrated institution in all of the United States. It is the first. They were very forcible and very serious about integrating the U.S. Army. So she experienced a level of freedom that no other hardly any other black person in America could experience, because she was afforded a level of respect as a Buffalo Soldier that you just couldn't get any other way.
And again, we come down to it was so hard to get competent people to do this job. All of a sudden, what matters is the fact that you're competent. All of this other bullshit that you've been harassed about your entire life doesn't matter. It's can you do the job? And if you can do it well, wow.
Yeah, it's the same thing happened for women in World War II when they went to work.
And then...
Well, not when they went to work, because that is a fucking fallacy. Because,
there are still dudes in charge.
Well, but all the mathematicians were women, and it's just crazy. There were so many women at work that we just never hear about.
Well, and then the dudes came home, and they're like, well, thanks, bye. Go back into the kitchen. The women are like, but I'm better at this than you were. They're like, yeah, but I'm a guy. So just move along.
Yeah. And in the case of women's soccer, they were like, but we make more money than you. And they were like, oh, yeah, so that shit's banned. We're done with that. Ladies, go home. Yeah, thank you for your effort.
Yeah.
But if you're making more money than us, no, that's absolutely never going to happen again. Thank you.
We can't have that. No. Yeah. We score more goals than you. Yeah. So yeah, they get back up there and we find out all of this stuff about them. So so Tommy is doing his, an eye for an eye. That's what I believe in. I'm like, no, I think you might take my eye. So I'll just take both of yours and get the jump on you. That's totally the kind of guy he is.
You did jump over a little bit of information because not only did the land barons take his land and I think kill his dad, but then he married an Indian woman and had a kid. And evil racist killed them. He was kind of muttering it, so I listened to it 3 times and didn't understand what he said. Did you?
I couldn't understand what he said, and the closed captioning just didn't have anything there either.
Yeah. So, but yeah, his wife and his kid were killed, and so now he just hates the whole fucking world. So he's kind of, I felt like they were 2 sides of the same coin. They were like Batman and the Joker. So
okay, I felt like he was trying to make that, but at the same time, he's like, my wife was an Injun, and Mo says, what? And he says, Injun. Like, not what tribe she was. Like, clearly he didn't have a lot of respect for her.
I didn't understand the what. I thought she was like, oh, really? You married an Indian woman? But no, I misunderstood.
Yeah. Like, he's, again, trying to do, like, no, it's cool. My wife's black. My wife's an Indian. And it's like, you're not seeing your wife as a person. You're like, oh yeah, Indian wives are great. They cook, they clean, they don't give you any lip. Like, he would be that kind of guy.
Oh, totally. So then later on, when he says, Tommy, whatever, and the colored girl, I was like, oh, you're dead. You just killed yourself. You just killed yourself by saying so-and-so and the colored girl. But so he did it twice. He was going to, she was going to be the next Injun.
Right, because it wasn't that they killed this person I was married to. They killed something that was my property. And those are 2 very different things.
Yeah, but I have a whole bunch of black friends.
Yeah, and so that's...
Let me tell you the exact number and their names.
Yeah. And so that's why he's always trying to say, like, see, I'm a much better guy. And Mo is going, see, but you're not. See, you're just flapping your gums, proving my point.
So while he's being the devil on her shoulder and telling her that he'll share the $40,000 that he has stashed, then we have...
After he just spent how long telling her all the white people are going to betray you?
Yes, literally. Yes, but I'm the good one. I'm the good one. And so then in comes the kindly Father Will Clay.
This was a surprise to me. Everything in this movie up to this point, I'm like, okay, this is a kind of Western. This is a kind of movie I have seen before that I'm enjoying because I feel like it's being done pretty well. Will Clay was a surprise.
He really was. What an evil, manipulative piece of shit this guy was. Oh, my goodness.
And, I mean, my favorite part is, like, Tommy Walsh, bullshitter knows a bullshitter.
Yeah. So his alarm immediately goes off. He's just freaking out. Shoot him! Shoot him! Shoot him! And this guy's like, no, little girl, I'm just like your dad. Look at me. Don't you miss your dad? I'm a kindly father. Let me take your hat off and pat your
ear. Creepy touching. Ew.
Oh, yes. There's nothing like a stranger touching a stranger
As the
who's pointing a gun at them.
That was when he whipped out that line, I was like, oh, no.
I just want to, if I saw my little girl out there, I'd just try to help that little girl. You poor little lost girl who can't do anything for yourself.
Oh, guck. No, and this again, when I was saying, like, surprisingly undepressing, like, I thought this was going to be so much worse. But it was only, like, regular bad.
And then, so now that, so we've had Tommy playing that devil on her shoulder going, right, yeah. You should just take the money and run. Yeah. All these people are going to betray you. Everybody hates you. Everybody hates me too. We should team up and be the team of people who everybody hates. And now this other guy's doing the kindly father, let me just help you with this and take this off your hands. You've been through enough, you poor little girl.
You're not dressed as a farmer? Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't in any way look like his cover story. The whole thing's obviously bullshit. And the guy that they sent off injured was obviously going to die. So he's like, oh yeah, he's going to be fine. And she's like,
great doctor in town.
Yeah. So you're definitely lying. And but she's kind of stringing him along. So she takes this gun from him.
Yep.
And she's off like kind of playing with it and pointing off in the distance and shit. And I didn't see her take the bullets out, but
Neither did I.
Oh, I loved it. So as soon as she just let him run out his rope, and then as soon as he drew down on her, it was just click, and
Clickety.
she's like, "That you stupid fucker."
Your bullets are in the field.
Yes.
Yeah. And so this was another good, like, reasonable, messy frontier fight. Though I will say, when he pulled out the knife, that's another point where I will, like, because I've messed around with knives just enough and like done just enough knife fight training to be absolutely fucking terrified if you see somebody pull out a knife and they do that confident hand switch. You're like, fuck me, I'm out.
I don't want to get cut, period. Like,
No.
even when you win a knife fight, you lose a knife fight.
Yeah.
You're going to get cut or stabbed, and that's going to suck. So you might as well just run away.
Like,
Live
in
to
a
fight another
weird
day,
way,
is what I say.
like, that's scarier than the gun. I'm just like,
Yeah. It's kind of like being attacked by a chimpanzee because
Right.
a knife can disable you. So then you're being injured, but you're unable to fight. Like with a gun, it's just over. Like,
Yeah.
you shoot me in the face, it's done. I don't have to go through being stabbed 127 times and then living to crawl 2 miles to the nearest town and then die of an infection a month later.
Yes. So we get sort of the classic, like, fire and then whiskey and then more fire and then ew, burning, ew.
Oh, yes. She set that man on fire.
But
Send him back
thank
to
you
hell.
for not dragging that out. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, a certain kind of movie would have drugged that out. They would have just, like, lovingly shown, like, I don't know, crackling flesh. It just, but nope, short, sweet, done, over, dead. Good.
Yeah, the 70s revenge movies we had to deal with there was a lot of rape and a lot of gratuitous violence, and it's very little payoff. And now we're getting just revenge, and you don't need all that other shit.
No.
But he does, so where we've had Tommy saying, well, I like non-white people and I've lived this hard ass life, so it's kind of, a little bit similar to what you've kind of gone through. I'm not saying it's the same, but it's kind of similar. Then Will Clay comes with you get your 40 acres and a mule because I ain't get my 40 acres and a mule. And that was just, oh my God. And so then I looked up 40 acres and a mule because
Yes.
we've all heard this term. Do you know anything about it?
Oh, yeah, but go ahead and give them the summary.
Okay, so William Tecumseh Sherman, who burned down all of the South,
Yes.
he gave Special Field Order 15, which allotted land to some of the freed families in the plots. So I think my family probably fought your family in the past because all my German family went to St. Louis and promptly went to Georgia to fight your family. And but Special Order 15 was those freed slaves that they were doing on the March to the Sea. They were giving them a plot of land no greater than 40 acres. And then he ordered the army to give these people a mule because you can't work the fucking land without a horse or a mule. And these people had nothing. They had no tools, no nothing. And they were like, well, nobody's going to be there. Everybody's going to starve because they burned all the fields. And they were like, everybody will starve if we don't get these people the equipment they need.
Right.
So like a sensible fucking person, and the U.S. Army was being sensible at the time, at least somewhat, they were acting in a way that just like MacArthur in Japan and after World War II, like if we make this place worse than it was, they're going to come back worse.
Right.
So we have to make it better, and so that's what he was trying to do with that. And then Andrew Johnson
fucking Johnson, exactly.
We should burn that motherfucker in effigy every
Dig
year.
him up and kill him all over.
Jesus. He was born around New Year's. He was born on the 29th of December. We should just, instead of dropping the ball, we should just burn Andrew Johnson one more time.
I was going to say, there are a couple
of
of popes who dug up their predecessors and put them on trial and then killed their skeletons again.
My God. What a gruesome thing to do. Like, imagine people's corpse, but you got a corpse on a defense. Just sitting there rotting, and Judge Judy's just screaming at the corpse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But, yeah. Yeah, and so we are definitely, and this is why the locked room phraseology came up again, because it's like, even though you're killing all these people and you're out in the middle of fucking nowhere, bad fucking people just keep showing up at that tree again.
Yeah, but again, it's like that's the sole thing that they have around to use as a landmark. So everybody's going to go to that tree. It's kind of like, why do they build the pyramids? Because people will go walk to that thing and go see what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
So, same deal.
But yeah, that I thought you'd sympathize. I thought you'd sympathize with the man in chains. I was brutalized, like you were brutalized. I was like,
whew.
Dude.
It was like right off of 8chan or 4chan or Reddit, like just lifted right out of there. You should sympathize with my male plight.
Yes, but we get another chase scene, and because we know that there's a wash around there and there's a riverbed, we do have all of like that brush for the Heidi chasey stuff. Because if they'd gone into a cornfield, that was the cornfield chase scene, but that would have been ridiculous.
No, instead they were going through like saguaros and shit, which have the biggest thorns in the world on them. I mean, they are like 2 or 3 inches long, and it sucks if you get stabbed by one. They can go through your hand.
Way worse, as far as I'm concerned, are the choyas.
Oh, yep. Choyas suck too. Barrel cactus. I mean, there's any number of things that sucks.
But the choyas have like a hook, whereas like the barrel cactus and the saguaro is just straight. There's nothing. There's no fish hooky aspect to it.
You make a very good point. The choya is not fun.
And the like little evil gremlin pieces break off the choyas and just like are like landmines in the road.
I had my roommate in Tucson was a EMT, and a person tried to kill themselves by driving off a cliff, they stole a pickup truck from a construction site to do it. That was loaded down the back with cinder blocks, so it just fell flat. And then when he tried to get out of it, he fell into a bear or into a choya. He became inextricably entwined in this choya and couldn't get out. So then he's there baking in the sun, trapped in this choya cactus, which is like Velcro for humans.
Oh, and these are the ones they call like the teddy bear cactus. Is that what you almost said?
Yeah. So it's just jammed in him, and it took a team of people hours to get him out of this, and all he did was break his ankle trying to get out of this thing. But like he was in the hospital for a week just because of all the wounds from the cactuses.
You did it to yourself, man. Oh my, look out the fucking wind. Oh my God. No.
Yep.
No, if I have a fear in life, I've got a couple that are like semi unreasonable, but I feel like my fear of like being surrounded by those teddy bear, those choya cactuses that look fluffy, like that's a fear, and I feel like that's a very reasonable
because
one.
Those fucking hairs never get out of you. You have to shave them off, and then they bug you for months. They like
burrow into your. Anyway,
yeah.
Anyway, so we're going through the thickets and the.
Oh wait! But she says like. Because he's talking now, he's like, oh well, it's fucking like all my boys are coming because it's morning time, and she's like, he says, I can't stop what's gonna happen, and I couldn't understand what she said, but it was something like, I'm gonna kill all your friends.
Yes.
And she goes on to say, I was the best damn soldier on a battlefield, and as a black woman, I have to work 3 times as hard
to get
for 1/5 of what I deserve.
I'm owed. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm tired of it, she says. So then she just lets him bait the trap because they do this little like animal noise thing. So as soon as he starts tweeting to his friends, she just knocks him out and waits for them to come.
Yep. And
she becomes John Rambo.
She does. She becomes John Rambo meets John Wick for sure, because she can.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But when she no longer has a gun, that does not stop her. This is one of like, I think sort of, as far as I'm concerned, the closest thing to gratuitous violence when she takes out the last guy.
Pike. She crushes his head with a rock.
Yes.
Yeah. So these guys were the most believable looking frontier bandits ever. So Pike was played by Keith Jardine, who was a UFC light heavyweight fighter for a while, and he just acted his ass off in this. He's got a big mustache.
They gave him a great, believable outfit. You know, that thing smelled terrible.
He looks like the scariest frontier man. Like, if that guy comes into a bar, everybody's just like, you know what? Fuck it. We're leaving. Like, because he's just going to beat you up standing next to you. And then he's got this, like, kind of deformed, like, native-looking tracker guy who's, like, got kind of a hunchback. I tried to look him up to see if he had, like, a physical deformity, if he was just acting. But he's not online, so I assume it's probably a physical deformity. But, people in the 19th century, they didn't have access to medical care. And they had horrible nutrition. So there were a lot of people with physical deformities. And it was nice to see a person actually depicted as such, but not like as an invalid. Like, these are people who just existed in society.
And a lot of times you would break your leg when you're really young, and so you would end up lopsided because, like, especially if you like broke a growth plate or something, like one of your legs would just stop growing or it got set badly, and so you'd have like this weird lump and it would pull your muscles, and so now you're club-footed. And then a lot of babies were born in ways that, you know, things got scrunched up or they had sort of mental injuries that they ended up with like a lot of cerebral palsy. You know, they would have like one limb that would be shrunken, or they would get shakes on half of their body. You know, just all of these things were happening partly because, you know, women were put in worse and worse situations to give birth. Yeah, infections galore, and any sort of accident that happened to you, even if it seemed kind of minor, it could really fuck you up. Oh, yeah. And then the nutritional deficiencies, like your teeth could fall out, your hair could fall out. You could get mental retardation from it because you didn't get any iodine. You know, it just goes on.
But you might not have had iodine in your diet, but you had a lot of lead in your diet. So there was that too, especially if you were rich because you were eating off pewter.
Oh, beautiful.
And then they had intestinal parasites like they were North Koreans.
Num, 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 num.
Yes. So it's just like... They were going to be fucked up. I mean, you were not going to be attractive into old age back in the 19th century. It was impossible.
You were very rich and lived in particular places.
Okay.
Because in the 19th century, people were stopping eating off of pewter, and so a lot of them were eating off of ceramics.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, so that would help.
Oh, yeah, because that's when you get the Outta commune popping up and stuff. Yeah. So they're making their... fake porcelain, whatever.
Well, no, the Oneida commune, not the Native American tribe. That's the other confusing thing here. But no, they started out making flatware, silverware.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Porcelain came later, but anyway.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, fun fact I learned recently. So you've heard of the Shakers, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so they were another sort of...
I live on the East Coast. We have Shakers and Quakers all over the place.
Yeah, and so they were another sort of utopian community in the 19th century. And most people who don't know a damn thing about them have heard of like Shaker-style furniture, and it's like this very simplistic, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, they make a nice chair. But they also kind of wanted to turn the whole world vegetarian. And so, among other things, they seem to be responsible for the people who put that mixture of whipped cream and mayonnaise on fruit salads. So for that...
It's the Shakers?
Yes.
God damn. So we the Seventh-day Adventists trying to beat us down with vegetarianism and fucking wheat germ and all that brand cereal shit. Oh, yeah. And then we had... oh my God, they made those horrible fruit salads.
Yep. I was reading and I was like, they're responsible for that? Like, they put out a cookbook with that in it. And
I'm pretty sure that their dancing style, so they were ecstatic dancers,
right,
which is why they were called Shakers.
Yeah.
And I think that was adopted by the evangelicals. So when they do their crazy dancing that you see on YouTube occasionally or Instagram. Yeah. Yeah.
So the Shakers weren't the snake handlers. Snake handlers were like the people watching them on YouTube. And it's like, I gotta plus this up. I gotta become more exciting.
What? You just got tongues and dancing? Right. Oh, no. Let me show you something.
We're gonna add snakes and strychnine to that, baby.
Come to my mountaintop retreat in West Virginia and let's go handle some snakes.
Oh, Arkansas, calm down. They can be lots of places. But yeah, so she finally, gets Taku and Pike and I mean, and this is why I started thinking of Tommy as a bad cult leader, because he's doing the comeback, baby. This time it'll be different.
Oh, yeah. So he shoots into the water in front of her like, ha, I could have shot you, but I didn't. So that's a good thing. And it's like, all right, you've started this off on a very aggressive foot. That's not a good negotiating tactic.
I was just trying to get your attention. Yeah. God, why do you have to be so picky about everything?
And then he practically busted out that line you always used to see in movies. Give me one reason why you'll date him and not me. Because, he was that really like authoritative. Give me one reason. And it's like, God damn, man. Like, this isn't a test. How about that question is the reason?
Like I told you, I know this guy. You run across him and you're just like, I'm so exhausted by your very presence.
Luckily, gay men just stick their finger up your butt and they dispense with all the other pretense. There's not there's no shenanigans. They get right to the shoop. Checking your oil. That is a fine hello.
Yes, and so Tommy is like, because he's a bad cult leader, he sets himself up in a challenge where he doesn't already know the income. Come on, let's do that gunfighter shit. Man, it'll be cool.
Oh, and by the way, we have also found out that it was not $40,000 that he had hidden. No. It was $120,000, which I looked up. That is the equivalent of just about $3 million today. So
that's a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, she is starting her own utopian commune now. And he's like, yeah, the two of us, we can share the money and run off together and be banditos and it'll be the best. And there is a little, you're like, all right, I can kind of see this. I could maybe.
Except he spent the whole movie talking about how white people will fuck up her shit.
He really did. He was like, yeah, I'm going to say all these things, but I'm probably lying because I am white and yeah.
And I have proven every chance that every time there's like a little bit of daylight, I just become an evil bastard again. So, but this time you should believe me.
Yeah.
I promise, baby, this time it'll be different.
I think this is really fun because, so when she said the thing about like, oh, yeah, your friends are coming to try to take my freedom away. All right, cool. But it was like the opposite of John Wick, where John Wick's like, I promised my wife I would never kill again, and now I'm going to have to kill again. This was just like, well, I was really trying to be this peaceful person, but fuck that shit. I was born to murder. Let's get it on. And
I mean, it's there's no sort of like moral quandary of you're turning me into something. Like, I've already been turned into something I never wanted to be. Like, that's years ago in my past. I'm over that.
Yeah. So then finally when she's got him and she's going to kill him and she's like, you never even asked me my name. And I was like, oh, I was waiting for this. Yeah. I knew she had that in her back pocket. And I'm sure you knew that too, right?
Because, and the colored girl, I'm like, you are such a fucking dunce. Like,
He might as well have just shot himself right there. It was just like, oh, you're dead. That is it for you, sir. But then she says, my name is Mo Washington. And it's because you saw on the thing that the deed was granted to Eunice Mo Washington. But now she's not Eunice anymore. She is fucking Mo Washington. Bang!
And in fact, like, I had to go back and look because I thought it said Eunice Mo Washington when I saw it the first time. And then you find out she's a soldier and she keeps calling herself Mo. And I was like, did it say Ensign Mo Washington? And went back and I'm like, no. It says Eunice.
Yeah. But I could definitely see why you'd think it was ensign, except that I think that's only a naval rank.
And I was like, but is that only a naval rank? But no, there are some militaries where ensign is just like a baby officer. Like you're not even like it. But because
ensign means you will die first. You're the guy in the red outfit on Star Trek. You are definitely you're going down.
Like, you're an officer, but you're not really one yet. You have no little pips or bars or thingies, but you're not enlisted. but you're in the military. And Tommy just goes down. He's trying to be nice, like, you go get your money, but also he's being a dick. Like, I'm like, you're just that guy. You're just that guy, because you're seeing everything through the lens of, how is this affecting me?
Yeah. But he actually tells her where the money is so she can go be free at the end. So he seems to have some sort of contrition. Either that, or he was kind of a piece of shit but telling the truth the whole time, and he would have just shared the money with her.
I do think he's more like, well, I can't get my revenge on the world any other way, but giving a black woman a bunch of money is still kind of getting revenge on the world. That is a big fuck you to the world on the way out. Right. That was sort of how I saw it for him. Like, it wasn't to be nice to her. It was so he could get in his, like, one less I stab at the world. Which fit with his personality. Like, that's the kind of thing a guy like that wants to do so bad. He did have the backstory for some revenge, too. I mean, there was, the fire was fed. Well, and I'm like, even though he didn't see his wife as a person and a piece of property, like, that still sucks. Like, however you thought of your wife, somebody did kill her. Like, I'm not saying that sucks less. I'm not saying it makes him a better person. It just, of course he was mad about that. He didn't strike me as the type of person who would just be punching a woman up and down for no reason. No. Because he wasn't into gratuitous violence and seemed to irritate him. So, I imagine there's probably worse people in the 19th century to be married to. Totally. He would probably be in the upper 25%, honestly. He's, as far as husbands go, it'd be hard to find better, honestly, from the people we have seen. We have seen, for sure. Okay, so we wake up in the morning again. It's fucking cold again, and I get to hear one of my favorite frontier gibberish fake swears ever. What was it? When the sheriff comes up and he goes, "Bag of nails." I was like, that was so expressive. I loved it. That was authentic frontier gibberish right there. Yes. I love all the nicey nice curses. I think they're very fun. And when they like have the right cadence and sort of evoke something that, it's not a swear, but you're like, that was a swear. Yeah. I like it. Yeah, they're fun. I mean, Bag of Nails is pretty fun. I like it much better when they're like, oh, just say fudge. And you're like, no, that's not, it doesn't, I enjoy a good gall darn it. I really do. I enjoy a good gall darn it. When people say gall darn it, I'm like, that sums it up. You're not really pissed off, but it could have gone better. Yeah, like for me, dang it. That works too. And so that's like Bag of Nails fits into that pot of things. We're like, that's a nice one. That actually has been quoted back to me in a DM. Somebody has said, dang it to me, imitating you. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? And they were like, Greta always says it. I was like, oh, shit. All right. And she does. They were like, it's super cute. She goes, dang it. Because exactly. Like, it's not worth, like, an actual swear, but that was annoying. But I have been inconvenienced. Exactly. So we get to the end, and they're all like, wow, all these bad guys just shot these other bad guys. She's sitting at this huge tree that is now surrounded by seated corpses. It's like 20 people are surrounding this tree dead, and she is looking like a necklace of dead white dudes. Yeah, and she's looking like the terrified little black man that she's pretended to be. They're just like, well, these white dudes killed these white dudes because ain't no man who could ever have killed all these dudes. And Moe's just going, yeah. Donovan's covering for her the whole time, and he's like, you think this fella here killed all these men? Yeah. No man I know could have done that. Wink, wink. Because he knows. He's in on the joke. My favorite is, well, what about the money you're supposed to have? You were just going to leave that? And he's like, what you going to do? Dig up the whole county? Like, as he's looking directly at the grave where it's been hidden. And they've walked past this thing the whole time, and whole movie. Yeah. It's in every shot has this grave where the money is in it. And he probably knew the whole time, but he was like, I'm going to let this
quote unquote fella get off with this money. It was like Donovan set it up.
Because, yeah, Wheeler is like, oh, I'm going to get the money from the sheriff for, like, turning in Tommy Walsh. Because, like, I guess he brought the sheriff to Tommy Walsh.
Oh, that's right. His name is Wheeler, not Donovan.
Yeah.
For some reason, I wrote down his name was Donovan.
But yeah, so Wheeler, like, somehow he's the one who gets the reward. Okay, sure, whatever. But it's like, I'll get the reward and I'll get these guys to walk away from you.
Yeah, and he was chilled to her the whole time. So it was, but it wasn't like obsequious or anything overbearing. It was like, I respect you. I understand you probably don't like me. And so I'm just going to, here's your gun. If you can help us out when people start shooting at us, that would be great. And yeah, I'll check on you in the morning. Have a good one.
Yeah, he was sort of like willing to respect her wishes to be pretty invisible. It's like, let's not make, like, when, because he sort of noticed that she was at the back of the carriage and looked inside the carriage. And it's like, okay, technically there's room in here, but you know what? If I force the issue and say, no, there's a space for this kid inside the, like, that's the kind of attention that I bet this kid doesn't want.
Yeah. Like the green flag guy from TikTok would just be running through.
Right.
I'm sure he's running through every scene in his head. Like, yep, green flag.
Yeah, that's a good choice. But yeah, this is where the callback to "we have to be grateful" comes up, because the sheriff is like, all right, some people would have hung you, but how about you just bury the bodies and I let you go and be grateful for that. So
this was a theme throughout the movie that they kept saying, like, Black people could just be hung just for being there, just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so they just said, so what do we do with this guy? Should we hang him? And he's like, no, we don't have to hang this guy. Like, he didn't do shit. He couldn't have killed all these people. Why would we hang him? And they're like, well, he's a loose end. Should we hang him anyway? I mean, we haven't hung anybody today. I mean, it was really, they were really casual about it. Like, what do we do with this guy? We could just let him carry on living his life, or should we hang him? Like, how does that even enter your head?
You're like, vanilla or murder.
They left this person in charge to guard the person. They got back, the person's still there dead, so they can still collect the bounty. What is the impetus to hang the person? Just the color of their skin?
You just can't have free black folks just wandering the earth. We're still uncomfortable with that.
Shit is crazy. But,
yes.
and then it ends.
Well, it ends with Mo saying, all right, well, this all sucked, but I've got nothing to lose.
Oh, yeah, she's got to bury all the bodies. They're like, yeah, bury all these bodies and be glad we didn't hang you, bitch.
Yeah, be grateful. And I was like, woo, there it is. But yeah, so the posse rides off, leaving Mo by herself. And what does she do? She goes and, sure, why not? I'll check out this tip, and ta-da! There's the money.
Money!
Yes. And so it was kind of like the end of Bass Reeves' Lawman. The black folks get money to go off and start a town.
Where hopefully that money will insulate them slightly from the horrors of society around them. Yes.
So, like I said, not as depressing as I was expecting it to be. And
I will endeavor to depress you further in the future.
Hell, that's my job. I'm here to talk about how things are worse than you thought they were. But yes, I liked the movie more than I thought I was going to. I really appreciated that they didn't feel the need to like revel in the gore and made it more about the story. And it was a somewhat familiar story, I thought, told in an enjoyable to watch way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really, I think it gives a valuable perspective on the 19th century that people need to understand. Like, when people talk about reparations now and things like that, there's a reason. And it's not, we're not talking about shit that happened 400 years ago or even shit that happened 150 years ago. We're talking about stuff that happened up to like 80 years ago or 60 years ago. And then the repercussions lasted even further. And it's awful. I don't know what the answer is, but it's like there is a reason. It's not just people begging for free money out of the sky.
No. And as far as I'm concerned, it's like, well, you just give them money. They'll just spend it on candy and gun you whenever. I'm like, okay, fine. Then just fund every school that has, fund every school in the U.S. to the levels like rich kid public schools in Palo Alto are funded. that is like reparations, repair the fucking buildings where they live so they don't spend all of their, like, they actually get a good sleep at night and they're not dealing with rats and stinky, leaky plumbing. And like, people act worse the more desperate their circumstances are. Like, this is not rocket science.
No, that's why they cleaned up New York City. They cleaned up New York City so people would treat it like a nice place to live, which is what they do now. Like, it used to be horrible and filthy and covered with trash and graffiti everywhere. And, like, not all the policies used to make it nice were good policies.
Great.
However, the intention was a solid intention. I'm not saying that the execution
not
was
having
correct.
Garbage barges just floating out in the river, you're saying?
And graffiti on every single inch of everything. I mean, yes, it is a valid form of art, but there are places to do art that are not.
Yeah, well, and it's sort of like, people will go and do their jobs for money if you get paid. Like, people keep on talking about, like, universal basic income, and there's
which was something the founding fathers tried to get into the Bill of Rights.
Huh. Like, I feel like there's a way to do that, but most people want employment. They want to do a job where they do something useful. And with the biggest problem with all this automation is, like, you're telling people that they are not useful. So, of course, they're going to go graffiti everything. Like, this is the only way I can make my mark. Like, you're not letting me do anything meaningful.
Well, there is that.
I mean, it's an oversimplification.
But by the same token, we haven't educated these people, so they are incapable of doing anything meaningful.
Yeah, and anything sort of beautiful and interesting doesn't pay. I'm like, I'll just get Chat GPT to write me an essay and paint me a picture. Why do I need human creatives? I'm like, how do you think it can do that?
Yeah. Also, there is no AI the AI is being programmed by fucking idiots. It will never replace you and I because idiots cannot replace us. It's impossible.
Well,
and idiots training a thing to learn like they learn, that's fine by me. Go ahead. Let the machines be fucking morons too.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of annoying repetitive tasks that should be taken over by something mechanical. Like making matches, for instance. We've talked about this before, like how that was a hellish job. Oh, there was even a scene where Wheeler hands Mo matches.
Yes, and it was like a big deal. He's like, and she doesn't want to take the matches because she's like, I don't want to take anything from you, white man. And he's like, you need fucking matches or you'll die.
Take the matches. And she does end up using them. But it's sort of like mechanizing the manufacture of matches and sulfur processing and phosphorus processing. Like, that's a good thing. Like, that shit kills people horribly. Like, you get, like, crazy-ass growths and you spontaneously combust and everything.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, yeah. It's spectacular.
Anything involving spontaneous combustion is fun to discuss. It's just, that is one of the weirdest things in the world. And it used to be on all of these Strange But True TV shows.
Right.
That are just terrible. But, like, those were fun.
But no, we're doing it for customer service where that's not where I want it. No.
No, there's other ways we can be used, but then people need to stop going to medical school to make money and go to medical school because they want to help people cure cancers or make people feel better or
Well, I mean, and then the whole profitizing of the medical system Anyway, we have some medical
educators get paid nothing. Doctors who know nothing get paid everything.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't pass a 4th grade test in any subject, but they're the ones fucking cutting you open.
Well, no, usually the ones who don't know anything are the ones selling you supplements on the computer.
My ex-wife is a neurologist, and she is convinced that doctors are some of the stupidest and greediest people on planet Earth. She thinks that they are lower on the intellectual scale than finance people.
Well, the TV show Scrubs, the surgeons, for sure, they had that right. Okay, we have some medical movies we can eventually get to, but
the surgeons have a very long and hilarious history of being psychotic idiots.
We will have to definitely roll that in there. I know Burke and Hare is on there for our
for sure.
Halloween episode for sure. But next time we are going to go from very realistic and very thoughtful to silly and fantastical 19th century next time.
Wild Wild West. Wild Wild West. We had a summer where we heard the Wild Wild West theme song thousands of times. You couldn't get away from it. You could not get away from it.
The mall, the water park, the ice cream store, just driving down the walking down the street. Somebody has it coming out of their window. Because this was back when you just had radio stations and CD players. Like,
yeah.
So
real.
if you just had the radio on, it was like, what, every 10th song or something?
It was like the Jardiance commercial is now. Like, you were hearing it that fucking much. But yeah, steampunk. We're doing another steampunk episode because we haven't done one since League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yes, and so the question is, will this live up to or live down to that legacy? We shall see.
Yeah, live up or live down. It's a crapshoot as to where you want to go with that direction.
Yes, but this was really back when Will Smith, he was the shit. He was a bag of chips and all that at this point.
Oh yes, he was America's darling. This was I think Wild Wild West came out in 98 or 99, and that was a couple of years after I saw him perform on his birthday at Monster Jam 5 with Lords of the Underground and Onyx and Cave 7 and a bunch of other rap groups from that era. So
yeah, and this is really a stacked cast.
I don't remember the cast.
Yeah, anyway, it has a very stacked cast, and we will see if that elevates the movie, which it can sometimes, or it can just drag it down. Sometimes when you have too many big names in a movie, it just causes the whole project to collapse in on itself.
Yes, yeah, that happens more often than not, I think.
Right, yeah. So,
and I am going to pick your brain to see where you come down on steampunk as a science teacher, knowing that, steam obviously doesn't produce all that much power. I'm curious to see where you come down on it as a whole.
I think the concept as a big idea is a lot of fun. And I also love all the Rube Goldbergian stuff that people create in response to it. But the people are like, yeah, we should have just stuck with steam power. And yeah, I'm like, you don't know what you're fucking talking about. So I love it. I love it as a creative direction, but I was super over it because there was a period of time where everything had a watch gear and an octopus on it. And I was just like, I'm over that.
Yes, yes. Like we were all a member of Hydra secretly. Like 19th century Hydra.
But sort of the ability to do like small computer motors and sort of like recreate the idea of sort of steampunk and like, I would call it like high mechanical, I think is a lot of fun. And I love what people do with it when they get creative about it.
It's fun to see where you can go with clockwork as just as a device, because we really got away from that when we got into electronics, but they were capable of doing so much amazing stuff with clockwork back in the day.
Right. Yeah. All the little like wind up toys and yeah, once we went with hydraulics, things sort of like got off on a weird thing. But I think there's a lot to be said for re-looking at sort of the mechanical world and the clockwork world. And that's what I love about steampunk is how people get creative with it. And it can open you up to a different way of looking at stuff and bring people to solutions. So
yeah, speaking of that, there's an author named Paolo Bacigalupi, and he writes, it's kind of steampunky futuristic stuff. So it's like there's no chemical combustion anymore. I don't remember what happened. I think like some microbe ate all the gasoline or something like that. So they use spring powered stuff, and then they genetically engineer these like crazy beasts of burden to do like super heavy lifting and to wind these like super tightly coiled springs.
These clockwork things. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, so I love the like you said, it's interesting to see if we kind of go back to a kind of a branch in time to kind of contemplate where things might have gone had we gone a different, more mechanical path.
Right. And because you sort of have people, it's like, oh, computers will do it. There's a lot of stuff in this world that computers still can't do. And you need to go back to understanding sort of the mechanical and clockwork to getting a lot of robotics to work. And that's when people realize, like, oh, building robots is hard.
Yeah. Although these robots we've got now are getting wildly impressive.
And yet, try to program one of them to make a peanut butter sandwich.
Try to program one to drive a car. Can't do it. Can't do it. You can't do it. And also, that should be a notice. These cars are too fucking fast. Because if a robot can't control it, humans probably can't do a shit job at it either. So...
Yeah, cars are too fast. Cars are too fast and guns are too powerful. They just make a mess.
If everybody stuck to BB guns, I'd be fine with that.
Right. Yeah. All right. So,
for the
next week, Wild Wild West.
Next week, Wild Wild West. But until then, where are you going to be?
I am going to be at my other podcast, The History of American Food, rolling around lavishly in the 19th century, and it's inspiring me to eat a little bit like a robber baron. I made some delicious crab sauce with all of the delicious crabs that I caught.
Oh, yes, you have
season.
Thousands of pounds of crab meat in your house. Your whole house is just one giant freezer now filled with crab meat. That's awesome. Hey, did coffee culture start to become a thing in the 19th century? Is that part of what you're going to be? Oh, okay, cool. So, is there going to be a whole episode on coffee, or maybe a series, or what?
Coffee houses, restaurants, sort of like how the 19th century created a new way for the sexes to mix. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah!
And food is involved in that.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I want to learn about 19th century Starbucks. I can't wait.
You're not dressed for it. I'll just tell you that right now.
Oh, no. I don't even know that I'm supposed to wear a white tie at night. So I'm terribly underdressed. I'm wearing a tropical shirt today, and it only has one button, I think, this shirt. But
I'm not dressed for it. I'm only I'm wearing summer layers, so I'm 4 layers short at this point.
And you're wearing pants,
either.
like a psychopath.
I am wearing a dress.
Oh, are you wearing a dress? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was a shirt, but it's a dress. Okay. I was incorrect. Never mind. There I go, making assumptions.
Okay, so where can we find you on the internet?
On the Instagrams at Plague of Strength. I post every day something awesome about strength and nutrition and just being excellent in every possible way. And
a lot of cool historical pictures here and there. There is some good bodybuilding history fun. Don't forget that.
And I've got some really fun boxing videos coming up. There's a late 19th century, I think it's one of the first boxing matches ever filmed, and it's hilarious. Greta, you will crack up because I don't remember the last time you sparred. I don't know what the last time you sparred was, but you could trash both the guys in this ring at the same time. Just doing straight karate punches, just wipe them out. So, it's fun to see.
So it's a good warm up for the Olympics then, huh?
Yes, exactly. And watching have you seen any of the old Olympic gymnastics and stuff like that? Seeing the vault from 1950 compared to the vault now, it's wild.
Dude, yeah.
They're I made it over the vault thingy. That was a gold medal in the 1950 Olympics.
Well, you think about it, talk about amateurs.
Yeah, yeah, for real.
All right. Well, we will see you next week.
Yes, we will.
All right.
Until that day.
Bye. You can always reach out to us by email at pcgpodcasters@gmail.com. And you can find more dope beats like this one from royalraven.com.